money it must cost to move all of those people. You know, we're talking about hundreds, possibly even thousands of people from one city to another city 4 hours away. Must be tremendous. There's a story, it's not just an anecdotal story, it's an absolutely true story, and that is the ceiling fell in on the Strasbourg Parliament, and it was out of commission for about 6 months. Consequently, all the parliamentary sittings were in Brussels instead of Strasbourg. And they calculated the amount of money that was saved. I can't remember what the figure was, but it was a colossal amount. Right. On the factual questions about the different institutions, are you still incredibly confused about that? Because it's quite understandable. You know, the European Council, made up of prime ministers, only meets every 6 months. They decide the big questions like new treaties and so on. The legislative process, you know, the lawmaking process, starts off with the Commission. That's the one headed by President Barroso. They think up the ideas. They're the only ones who can think up ideas for legislation, but they can't actually enact them. They can't finish the process. It then goes concurrently to the Parliament on the one hand and the Council on the other. The Council is the one headed by this rotating presidency. The Hungarian government at the moment, the Polish government after July, and so on. And then, when it's gone through both the Council and the Parliament, it comes out the other end, like sort of ill-made sausage, and produces the legislation. So in other words, you need the Commission starts the process off, the Council and the Parliament finish the process off, the Council and the Parliament can't think up the legislation, but they do the last stage. The Commission does the first stage, but they can't do the last stage. It's a bit like a pantomime horse, with instead of having 2 people in it, you've got 3 people in it, and they're all sort of, to some extent, pulling in different directions. One point I would make, and this problem with these sort of visits, is that you see only a very restricted view. You come in by an entrance that nobody else uses. You're whisked into this room, and you have a few words from me, and if you're lucky, from the civil servant as well. Then you're whisked upstairs. Then you see the Parliament with nobody actually sitting in it. Then you're whisked back down again, and you get another talk and opportunity for questions. And then you're out for lunch and back. And it doesn't really give you a clear enough idea. There you are, it's my colleague here. It doesn't really give you a clear enough idea of what it is. What I'd like to see, you know, we've extended this to 2 days. What I'd like to see is that extra day being split. So those who want to sort of go off battle forging or whatever it is, fine. Those who, if we arrange it for a weekday, those who'd like to look around the Parliament, come in and watch committees. That will be particularly useful if you could do that. You know, we can take you around, we can show you our offices. His is fairly tidy, mine isn't. It's piles of things all over the place. In fact, you might even be consigned to tidying it up. You could come in, sit at the back of a committee. It would be rather difficult to sort of pick up exactly where we'd got to in a discussion if you were there, but you'd see the complexity of it and see the difficulty sometimes of getting through the sort of Eurospeak, and really sort of get a bit of a greater feel for the place, possibly see the Parliament at a time when it's in plenary session. You know, seeing the places doesn't really tell you very much. So, we've got about 10 minutes. Open it to the floor. Yes?
Andrew, I took great comfort, in fact I rejoiced with the fact that there was 2 nationalist MEP elected. I thought we're well on the way, life's good. And more than that, I want to see, if not 2, more nationalist MEPs elected in the future. But what breaks my heart is the disparity and the disunity, and will that affect our future for MEPs?
It really means we've got to get things sorted out once and for all this year, and I think we've got to avoid the idea that we don't like something so we walk away. I think we've got to be a grown-up party that we all stay in the same place and, if possible, move in the same direction.
And I would say that when someone hears something which sounds terrible, they should come and ask about it, instead of repeating lies without asking what the truth is. I think that'd be a very good start.
Expand.
The various things that Andrew was saying on the internet a couple of days ago were outrageous lies, and if you don't come and ask me about them, if he comes to the head office, we can show him the facts, we can show him the facts and so on, and he can make his own mind up then instead of repeating what he hasn't checked.
He's had the guts to turn
I would
up.
like to go back to where we were a minute ago and ask about why we're here looking at this Parliament. Is it possible for visitors like us to witness the plenary session in session? So is that allowed, like in the Westminster Parliament? Are we allowed to do that? Or is it always...
Well, I'm not sure. They seem to put this format on us, which doesn't really allow us to do it. But I think we might well ask if we can have a completely different format, because we've seen other people take parties around.
As I gather, it is allowed to have people at plenary sessions, but because there's only basically once a month, and they're fairly rare, the big party blocks, the ones in favour, the Socialists, the Liberals, the Tories and so on, they get the prime time, and we get the bits, you know, when there's not so many people about, and the committee sessions are essentially unbelievably boring, whereas the plenary sessions sometimes are of interest, but they go to the special people here, not us.
Could I ask Nick what Andrew was actually accused of lying about the other day?
Yeah, for instance, he said that one region had used to have 3,000 members, is now down to 300.
No, 600.
600. Well, we've never had a region in the country which had 3,000 members.
Well, that was told to me on good authority. I can't identify the region because I'll identify the person.
Well, will you come to our head office with me in the next couple of weeks and look at the facts for yourself on the database and so on, and then if you find you were wrong, correct it?
Well, thanks. So
Good, thank you.
Nick, while you're here, can I ask you a sincere question? Will you allow this year to be a fair leadership election in the party? Will you let Richard Edmonds address the rest of the party at branch level throughout the country without suspending or expelling any individuals? Will you let some internal democracy go ahead in this party?
We've got internal democracy. Nobody has ever been expelled or suspended for asking questions. People have been expelled or suspended for wantonly repeating lies because they're damaging. People shouldn't be allowed to lie. But most definitely, I think there should be a leadership election this year. The answer is no, we shouldn't have branch meetings, people that happen to be chosen by one side or the other go along and speak at a branch meeting. What I'm going to say is, and what we'll do, if this comes about, is that we will have one meeting in each region where both or all the candidates will speak in the same way, when all the members and the members only can come along, and we'll have it overdone quickly and honestly and openly, rather than people factionalising and one organiser who supports one person having that person to speak and the other one somewhere else.
Well, this is a nomination process, is it not? This is before there's an election. That individual has to raise his issues to get the nominations to force an election.
What I want to see, obviously we've got an EGM due. Nothing's been done on that in the run up to the elections because that's more important. Now that's out of the way, I want to see among the constitutional changes a position where we have fixed term elections, where people don't have to get huge numbers of, or even small numbers of signatures before they can stand. As long as you get your 10, the same as in a parliamentary system, as long as you put a deposit up, returnable similar to the parliamentary system, then anyone who's a qualified member can stand. I think it'll be far, far better. And that's what I hope we can get in this year.
Can we take it then, Mr. Griffin? Oh, sorry.
Nick, you know me. You know I was completely pro Nick Griffin, the same age as my daughter, and all I could think of was, this boy is putting his life on the line for me. I've been so bitterly disappointed. You're saying if anyone's got a beef, if anyone's got a problem, don't listen to lies, ask you. Several emails have never been answered, and they quoted chapter and verse of the protocol, of the Constitution. You never bothered to answer. I've spoken to loads of people. You do not answer mail. Now either you've got a secretary that is sadly lacking, or you are hiding yourself.
Well,
but I'm sorry, you've fallen right off your pedestal with me, because as I said in the video that was put out on YouTube, nothing to do with me, you lied to me, you've lost me. You lied to me. I've only got to have one slight inkling that you're not totally kosher and you're out of my life. Now, you've sat here and said something today about a leadership election. You break that vow and so help me, I will make it my life's work to hound you.
I won't break that vow.
Give us truth. Give us honesty. Stand up and be counted, and above all, show a bit of British backbone.
He has done by coming here.
Well, I'm here. I've heard incidentally. I heard just on the grapevine that this was on. I wasn't told this was on. And last time this happened with a meeting who came here, organised by Andrew's staff, people were told that I knew about it and hadn't bothered to come. Well, I've come because I heard about it, not because I was told about it. And I've come knowing that a significant number of the people here are here precisely because they're bitter opponents of mine and haven't been in good sorts and haven't been doing stuff with the party, and this is their sort of reward. I also know, I'm sure, that there's some people here who have not the faintest idea what this is all about and are probably demoralised by it, and so my apologies for that. As for the emails, I've never seen an email from you. I don't handle my emails in the first instance. They're dealt with by a secretary who sends on ones to me and highlights them if she feels them that they're particularly important. So my apologies that that hasn't been there. If you can, refine them or update them and contact me directly. Catch me afterwards. I'll give you my phone number. Then you can phone me direct. Because as I'm sure Andrew would confirm, we get hundreds of emails every day at this place.
Yes.
And the good stuff, the important stuff, the party stuff, gets lost in the junk. So as I say, you catch me afterwards and you can ask me all those questions. And as for my position on the leadership, that's what I've said. I wouldn't be saying it unless I meant it.
I don't think I'm going to get very far with you, Nick, from the point of view Emma Colgate has been ostracised, and if you ostracise her, you'll ostracise anybody.
And they smear anyone. Anyone.
On the question of
Including their
suspensions,
families.
people have been suspended for attending meetings. Now, you might say those meetings were factional meetings, but indeed there have been meetings in parts of the country recently that you've addressed to which not all BNP members are admitted, which makes them factional meetings as well. So it appears that attendance at a factional meeting is okay as long as it's yours. Attendance at a factional meeting, if it's not one of yours, is not acceptable.
People haven't been suspended for attending meetings.
Yes, they have.
They've been suspended for refusing to come and talk about it and discuss things afterwards.
Well,
There's a big difference. There's a big difference.
ridiculous.
Mr Griffin,
Yes.
at a recent meeting down in Mottingham, myself and John Leach, the former Greenwich organiser, were denied entry to a meeting. And when I asked Steve Squires, the London regional organiser, why myself and Mr Leach weren't allowed in, I was told by Mr Squires that you had given specific instructions that under no circumstances were we allowed to come in.
Certainly in your case, yes, because there was an earlier meeting in Barking and Dagenham where you begged and pleaded to come in and said that if you came in, you would behave yourself and be sensible. Once in there, you went on and on and on,
No.
disgraced yourself,
No,
wouldn't
I
take no
was
for an
at that
answer.
So we just have
So
one
that was the
today.
point. You were disruptive at one meeting, that's enough. If one can disrupt one, you can't disrupt two.
I wasn't disruptive, Mr Griffin. You were telling the membership lies
No, it was not.
Absolutely.
about Mr Dowson's contract, which was on Eddie Butler's blog, and all I said to the members, that if they care to look at Eddie Butler's blog, they could actually see a copy of Mr Dowson's contract, which wasn't the same as what you were telling the members.
You went on and on, you didn't, it wasn't
No.
one point, you
No,
kept
no.
on coming back point after point after point and refused to sit down and let other people have their say.
One other question. The London organiser recently applied for nominations for the London mayoral candidate, and I was the only person that actually applied.
That's not true.
I was the only person that applied, and we were in the process of printing leaflets, and the whole system was abandoned and has now been started up again. Can you explain why that happened?
There are a number of people applied.
Well, there was one, Mr Griffin.
Well,
It was me.
there's more.
Well, there are now. Is there a four?
There's more there now. You are not a suitable candidate, I'm afraid.
sorry.
You are not a suitable candidate, in my opinion.